I want to thank everybody for being here. Will you please join me for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thanks for everybody for being here to our pre-visionary session. Can I get roll call, please?
Ms. Angelo Steele.
Here.
Ms. Liskini.
Here.
Ms. Martindale.
Here.
Ms. Peterson.
Here.
Mr. Bosa.
Here. Starting out, we're having this pre-visionary session. We're gonna have another one of these on the 10th, and then we'll have our visionary session on the 26th. So this is kind of to get the board ready for the visionary session. So I want to hand it over to Mr. Banks.
Very good, thank you. Just to repeat, as you may know, the board has designated time on February 26th to hold a visioning session. That session is intended to allow the Board of Education to set priorities for the year, recognizing that school districts are complicated organizations and that a district our size has many layers of activities. We thought it would be beneficial to prepare for the 26th by highlighting some of the work currently underway. This may allow each board member time to reflect, ask questions, and seek additional information on a topic rather than beginning the process for the first time on the 26th. Tonight, Dr. Bowser will lead us through a very quick review of some of the items from the academic team, and on February 10th, we plan to discuss the efforts of the operations side of the district. Since we are on a tight timeline tonight, it is likely that we will not have time to answer all of the questions regarding the topic. However, it would help us if you could alert us to items that you feel may rise to a board priority level in order to prepare us for our time on February 26th. As a reminder to all in attendance, we will have a transition period at the conclusion of this work session to go to our normal seats and adjust the audio. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Bowser.
Thanks, Mr. Banks and President Bosa, Vice President D'Angelo Steele, members of the board, and everyone here. Thanks for allowing us an opportunity just to talk about some of the great things that are happening. I'm going to kick it off, but the people that I work with are the ones doing and leading the hard work with our teachers, so they're going to spend most of the time talking with you. But I wanted to set the stage with just three key things. The first is to keep in mind our clear goals for the district. We have two. They're succinct and hopefully the idea about clear, concise goal setting is that everyone can repeat them, share them, and we can find a place in them that we keep prioritizing what we're doing. And the first one is raise achievement and opportunities for students. It's pretty clear. And the second one is to create environments in places where everyone feels like they belong and can engage in the work to grow to be their best self. And so with that frame around, I also wanted to highlight just quickly some of the work that we are undertaking as a department this year. For those of you that have served on the board for a while, you may recall that we work in 7-year cycles and 6-year cycles. All the work can be done at one time. And so in this 7 and 6-year cycle, the work that is underway is we are working to finalize the grades 7 through 12 math material adoption, which we plan with our teaching staff working hard to bring that to you in late spring for both a reading and public input, and then a final vote. We are also in year 1 of the review of the social studies course of study. The state is dragging their feet a bit, and there's a bit of flux there, so that team is underway, but we're waiting to see what happens with some of the standards in that area. We are in full PD implementation of the new ELA material adoption for grades K through 8. You've heard me say this many times, those of you with whom I've spoken often, that our teachers are working their tails off. They're not only learning something new, but they're keeping the doors open and teaching every day with our students. We also have PD implementation underway with the new world languages and visual arts materials that were adopted last year. We are engaging in a 6-year review cycle of the grades K through 6 report card. Dr. Gerard and Dr. Spain are leading that. And we are in a 6-year review cycle of our EL supports for our non-English speakers, and Mr. Kennedy is leading that. So all of that is currently underway and happening every day. And the last thing I want to present to you, some of you may get sick of hearing this, but I think it's an important frame as we start this conversation, because when Dr. Gerard and the team that he works with bring our kindergartners in to start, and everybody supports in the middle, and the real goal, as we know, we're going to start talking about graduation now, is that finish line at the end with Dr. Shuey and Mrs. Galvin. It is important, something we pay very close attention to is the readiness of our incoming class. And I reported to you back in the fall that last year we had about 39% of our kindergarten class was ready for kindergarten. So, it is what it is. And I was hoping as we watched that, we were going to start seeing an upward trend. I was shocked that this year we have 31% of our kindergartners ready for kindergarten. 31. That's less than 1 of every 3. And what's even more important to pay attention to as we serve the students that come through our doors is the range in that preparedness. Is we have one school that has almost 73% ready, so 3 out of every 4 are ready to go. And we have one school with 4.8%. So out of 100 kindergartners, 1 student, or about 4 students are ready to go. And so I guess what I articulate there is we talk as a team all the time about being unified, not uniform. One size doesn't fit all. But we're unified in our approach around those 2 goals and setting the stage with everything we do to bring them to the most that we can. So I'll stop there and let these folks dive into some of the content, and then I know Mr. Banks will provide an opportunity at the end as much as we can for questions and feedback. So I think Dr. Gerard.
Thank you, Dr. Hauser. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to share with you tonight. Our K-4 years where curiosity is nurtured, academic foundations are built, and love of learning begins. And I just want to touch real quick on that number Dr. Bowser gave you. 31% of our kids come to school, come to kindergarten ready to learn. That's a number we need to keep an eye on. And how we're working with that right now. I'm part of an organization with United Way, with a group called Success by 3rd Grade, where we reach out to all preschool programs in the area. We've got 2 convenings here held at Southwestern City School District. And these are area preschools, area daycare centers, and bring them in and talk about the KRA and what we want kids, or what kids should be ready to learn. That's an ongoing process, and it's very, very much in its infancy. So more to come on that. But I also want to take time to acknowledge the hard work of our teachers. They are doing a ton of work and working hard and rigorous and just focused for this year with our incoming HMH and the changes in the district. So as you know, the science of reading is in place. We have over 800 of our teachers that have taken the modules and passed the module courses. That was in December. By June 30th of 2025, all teachers in our district, including administrators and central office administrators, have to have that complete. I do believe Dr. Bowser was the first one to complete the science of reading. So that's something to keep an eye on. Just know that that is a foundation for our learning for our teachers and our administrative team. You've heard about the HMH implementation. Margaret Towery last year led a committee to look at all the curriculum, and I reached out to her just to find out how many curriculum models we looked at. She said every single one that was approved by the state last year. Our teachers did a lot of work around that. They adopted the HMH. They liked the comprehensive component of that program. It's a full comprehensive ELA program from phonics to reading and writing, and we are in full implementation of that currently. With that said, I want to talk about that implementation process. We have HMH has provided us embedded staff development. We've partnered up 2 elementary schools together. They come in and they'll meet half a day with kindergarten teachers, and they'll actually go in the classrooms and lead what that instruction looks like. The first round ended in December. The next round starts in February 3rd. You're welcome to come see what that's like if you'd like. We focused on the online curriculum because it is a massive curriculum. There's a lot of resources in that our teachers can't use all of them. We focused on the phonics, obviously, the explicit literacy instruction. But each grade level gets 2 half-day embedded opportunities to learn that model. So we're really excited about that PD. Also with that, our literacy coordinators, Jackie Wisman, Leslie McBain, Margaret, they're also included in that opportunity as well. One thing that we've learned in the first semester is our students are getting their phonics. They're learning phonics. They're learning how to decode, but we're missing the transition from that into reading and understanding and comprehension. We're really working hard on that. We've got some, we also identified that writing is an area that we need to add some more focus on. The HMH curriculum has a writing component, but we don't feel it's robust enough for our students. So we're working on building platforms for that. And we also took time during those PDs to look at Amira, which is an online reading program that builds to the students' learning. It's really, it's an intervention, 30 or 15 minutes a day, 5 days a week. It's an individual based, so they can do that during the group work or individual work. Along with that, we're supporting the instruction with what we call knowledge building weeks. Knowledge building weeks were designed to help the teachers as we go through the modules. So modules are about 4 weeks in length. That fourth week is what we call a knowledge building week, and we integrate all the other content areas that teachers are struggling with getting in during the week. So we integrate science, math, social studies, and language arts. It's a thematic unit. It goes on for a week. It allows teachers to reset, but also focus on content areas that might otherwise not have that focus right now. We also have some schools engaging in what we call professional inquiry circles. That is also another opportunity for embedded teacher PD, where Jackie will go into meetings with grade level teams. It's building focus though. So building to identify areas where the students need work. They have professional inquiry circles, we call them PIC. They meet, they discuss what they want to do, and then they go back out in the classroom and model best practices. So that is to support instruction across all content areas. Right now, the focus is obviously on math and literacy. I want to talk a little bit about our math protocol. You may or may not know that Ready Math changed the K1 curriculum a little bit last year, which embeds geometry into every lesson. So that's new for those teachers too. Like I said, they're not only learning HMH, but now they're also learning a little bit of a new math curriculum. So that's a big shift, but we're still instructing young mathematicians, critical thinkers, and they're working hard. We have embedded assessment protocol for formative assessment. What that looks like at the end of each module, there's module assessments. Teachers take 1 or 2 questions out of that module assessment, and they do 2 things with it. They sit with the student and have a one-on-one interview to understand what that child's thinking and learning. Right? You can get a lot from a conversation. It's about 1 or 2 minute conversation. The other pieces are written assessment. Teachers then take that back, and what they're looking for out of those 2 questions are the depth of knowledge. So they're looking at depth of knowledge level 3, which is analysis. Are they analyzing what they're learning? This is kindergarten first graders. And then the second question, are they reaching that depth of knowledge 4, which is are they able to correlate and connect it to the real world? So that's the purpose of that, and then the drive instruction. Then the last thing that we're working on is a standards-based report card, like Dr. Bowser mentioned. We have 28 teachers throughout the district working on it. We've had our second meeting. Our goal for that is to build a more informative standards-based report card that informs parents, informs students, and that can also drive instruction. The feedback, we surveyed all of our K-4 parents, teachers, and administrators. This is, I think, impressive. 570 parents responded. I think that's a great response. 145 teachers and administrators responded to that survey. So this committee did that survey. Right now we're in the phase of each grade level has created a draft. And then we'll come back together, look at that draft and see if it's meeting the parents' needs, the students' needs, and the teachers' needs as well. Today we finished up our 16th mid-year data review. My team, which is Margaret, Jackie, Leslie, the instructional coaches, we go out to every elementary school and we meet with their team for 45 minutes. What we're looking for is, one, how's the HMH implementation really going? How are the students responding to that new instruction? What can we tweak? What can we add? What can we differentiate? And then we look at student data, and we'll revisit that in the spring, 16 more visits. and look at our baseline, our finish line, so we can get ready for the next school year. That's it.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you tonight. I'm excited to share the hard work of the middle grade buildings. So as Dr. Bowser mentioned, the kindergarten readiness thing doesn't go away by 5th grade. But teachers have worked really hard K-4 to get as much growth as possible, and we really continue that work in the middle grades. So a couple of the things to highlight, our ELA data from last spring shows that we are growing students, particularly in writing. Writing has been a focus for the last few years, and we're calling it writing across the content, which basically means they write in every class. There are lots of strategies that we're using, and they kind of vary by building and by team. But the OST really looks at, it's sort of a gamify model, if you will. I'm going to use that term because there's a certain number of words a student needs to write to get full points. There's a certain amount of restating and elaboration that need to happen. And so teachers are really spending a lot of time building up student writing perseverance and stamina, because if they just write one sentence, they won't get full credit. They have to meet all the points of that writing assignment. But we're really showing that we're growing those kids in 5-8. So the building focus has been successful. We do that in some timed writing activities, a lot of elaboration strategies, and nonfiction texts, and getting kids to read nonfiction and then be able to write about it. So as another part of that, we do have a new curriculum in grades 5 and 6 that was adopted and for rollout this year. It's called PARC, you might have heard of it. Teachers are working really hard, as Dr. Gerard and Dr. Bowser mentioned, to learn it and fly it all at the same time. And they've been so dedicated to it that in October, many of them came together as teams to get some PD early, because the process of the professional development was going to be rolled out throughout the year, and teachers didn't want to wait. So we spent some time together in October. We've had a lot of support from our literacy coaches. They've been amazing in this process. We just had a Park Street day today where literacy coaches have been invaluable. So really want to highlight their work. This curriculum is based in science of reading. It is complex, it is at grade level, and so when you have kids already a little behind, you've got to get them to the grade level standard in order to get that proficient. So that's the constant struggle that teachers are facing. This new curriculum, though, should really help to increase scores on the OST because it's got lots of interventions built in. So I want to highlight that, as well as the dedication of the teachers. So in math, our teams have been working on some research-based instructional practices alongside our math coaches, just like literacy. We're doing a lot of side-by-side coaching, and we're still in the iReady curriculum. They have presented at a national level conference, 2 of our coaches, on effective coaching strategies, and I want to highlight that because they've been very impressive in that. We've also been using Restart Readiness, which is release OST questions, so that kids have real-time examples of what questions look like, how to practice not only test taking, but knowing on content how to answer those questions. So some of those things have been used in both ELA and math. CTE electives, which is the only thing I feel like I ever get to talk to you about, we're continuing to strengthen those courses and make them as engaging as possible, because the point of them was to increase students wanting to come to school, feeling a sense of belonging, especially if they were struggling in a content area, and really get them aligned to something in high school, but if they really enjoyed it for 9 weeks, they could pursue it. So that's something we've been working on this year. We've added an additional pathway with IMD, or interactive media design, which is also here offered at the Career Academy. And then we've been doing a lot of professional development in those electives to get teachers feeling like they have robust things to teach for students that are engaging. We're very fortunate we have Travis Wood and Josh Dorn with us. They both do a lot of our in-house PD, particularly in technology, so that's been great. And one of the other things I want to highlight is the cell phone policy. It's been such a big help, and I need to thank you, because it has decreased some discipline so far this year. We've seen a 10% reduction in fighting and in drugs alone. We're hoping that it helps overall. So thank you very much for those. A couple of focus areas for us, we're constantly on attendance. We have some unexcused absences that we're constantly working on. That's trying to just raise that number of disengaged students for whatever the reasons. We know if we lose them by middle school, we're gonna have a harder time getting them through to high school. So that's been something we've been focused on. And in PDIS, with that sense of belonging and engagement, We're trying to get something the same in every building. So the 5-6s will all have house systems by next fall, and the 7-8s will have class bank or class equity. You might have heard it either way. It uses a monetary system that students can earn money to do things like sit in a teacher chair for the day or some little incentive, buy something from the school store. So we're trying to both use finance and an incentive to get kids engaged and involved and feel like they belong. So all of those will be rolled out in some manner within the next year at every building, but building teams decide what fits them best. So those are the two things that most of them are using. And then finally, parent engagement activities are always a highlight for us, and we've been increasing that exponentially, but that also vary in opportunity based on grant funds. So some of them have lots of grant funds available to host nights where there's food and lots of activities, and others do not, but maybe have a muffins with mom or something like that they can get their PTA to rally behind. In addition to all of those things, we're also trying to strengthen our intervention and enrichment time. So every building has a block of time in their schedule where an iReady assessment lives or some other type of assessment, diagnostic assessment. But we want to schedule that and use that as wisely as possible. So teachers can use that for small group pullout. That could be individual instruction to meet IEP needs, all of those things. So that's something we're looking at efficiencies with. And that's it for me.
Thank you for having me. Excited to talk a little bit about what the high schools are doing. And as Brian alluded to early, a lot of the concept is where they come in kindergarten ready and where they end up on graduation. And what happens in between is obviously the need of what we do every day. I used to think graduation was, where our ultimate goal, and it's really become clear to me in this position, it is absolutely not the goal. That is the beginning. Graduation is, the expectation. It is what we prepare them for outside of high school that matters the most, right? So that being said, still we've had the highest graduation rate in the history of the district, and we are projected to have an even higher graduation rate this coming year. We have earned 3 stars on the report card for the first time, and that was not by accident. We have taken very deliberate steps to implement some strategies and initiatives that are helping students become more engaged, pair their interests with what they want to do post-graduation, and connect that to what they're taking in classes. And in doing that, connecting their interests past high school to what they need to take in high school to get there, we're graduating more students. So we do currently have the highest number of students ever accessing rigorous coursework and career tech courses. And I will not steal Christine's thunder. I will let her talk a little bit about that. But last year, we had 1,000 students taking College Credit Plus courses, 1 or more. We've had the highest amount of college credits earned while still in high school ever in the history of the district. We are saving the community, taxpayers, parents, families, millions of dollars, not only in college tuition, but in textbook costs and everything, all the other ancillary costs that come with that. That being said, we are also this year we're running 3 pilots based on grades. This is the 3rd grant that I've been involved in since I've been in the seat. And this one would equal about the 23 million mark of grants that we brought into the district to provide services to prepare students for post-graduation. And the 3 that we are currently working on, the first one is called Graduation Alliance. And this one is actually for recent graduates that for whatever reason graduated, maybe had a plan, didn't follow through with it, or something happened, life circumstances, unforeseen circumstances, but they're looking for employment. So we have provided Graduation Alliance, a partner organization, with contact information to our students in our community currently, with reaching out to them and providing them job opportunities, trying to employ more people. Even the message is, we will care for you and we will support you even after you graduate. Once you're in our community, you are permanently in our community, and we believe that firmly. So that is an exciting pilot. The other pilot that we are doing is called the Job Center at Franklin Heights High School. And what this is, it's in a partnership again with county services, where there will be a career specialist housed in Franklin Heights, working with current students, helping them through their interests after high school, and basically pairing them with jobs that are in high demand, living wage jobs in the community. We're hoping this pilot is successful. If it is, we will be hopefully expanding that and scaling that up. The third is really exciting. We've just started having conversations in partnership with the Educational Service Center of Central Ohio, with I Know I Can, and with Columbus State Community College. It's called Gear Up. And basically what this does is provides a person, it will ultimately lead to hopefully a person in all the high schools and middle schools. But right now we're looking at a theater pattern, our most in demand. And what we chose was Norton to Westland. And basically what this is, it's an additional support that not only helps students with their graduation plans, it helps them identify whether they are looking to enlist, employ, or enroll. So we have them either going into the military, into the workforce, or into college, or any variation of those pathways. We want students to be able to go on and off a pathway depending upon how their interest shifts and changes. So we are looking at those. This is also much more expansive than what I just mentioned. It does involve looking at multiple platforms for our students. We're currently using Zello, but one of the platforms we're looking to maybe transition to is called School Links. And this really has a large career readiness initiative. It's almost like a LinkedIn for students. It connects employers in the area with our students. They can see the students' College Credit Plus courses, their AP courses, their industry recognized credentials, and they can basically reach out to them, offer them positions in their companies or organizations. So we're super excited about that. And one thing that I'd be remiss not to mention, we've talked a lot about the new cell phone policy. We've talked a lot about academics, a little bit about safety and security. The high schools this year, Mr. Banks connected me with Nationwide Children's Hospital and a man named Mark Dutrecht that is training every single building to be AED certified in compliance, which means anytime there is a safety concern, if somebody goes into cardiac arrest or has any issues, everybody in the building is within 3 minutes of a device to get to the person in distress. And we have trained groups of people in every single high school at this point that can be responsive to those natures. So as a matter of fact, we just had a big event at Weston High School. They were the 100th certified building, and it was a big to-do, and we're excited to bring that to the district. And thanks to Mr. Banks, we have now 2 more schools that are just going to be doing big group training, and then all 5 of our high schools will be on board with that certification. So safety and security is always, we want to make sure students feel comfortable and safe, and our staff and the community that enter our buildings also feel safe in what we're doing. So that's what I have.
Good evening. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to get a chance to talk with everybody, talk a little about what's going on in the EL department here in Southwestern City Schools. This year is one of those times where we have an interesting combination. We have the all-time highest number of identified English learners in our district. We topped 4,000. 36 years ago, when I first started in this district, I remember when we identified our first 6, we're at 4,008 as of this week. And in addition to the 4,008 identified English learners we have about 2,400 students who've exited our programs over the years. With those 4,008 ELs, we also have the highest number of English language learners who would be identified that would meet the state's criteria for a newcomer, which means they're either first or second year in the U.S. schools, or they are performing at a pre-functional or beginner level on the Ohio English Language Proficiency Assessment. So that's a 1 to 5 scale. Those would be kids who would be at a 1 or a 2 level. And so with that number of students, with that percentage of students who are identified as newcomers, we usually run about 80 different languages, dialects. We're high 70s right now. We'll go up into the 80s. It's a very fluid number based on folks in and out of the district. And so when you have those sort of numbers, you have to take a look at it and say, as a program, what is our goal? Well, our number 1 goal is always English language proficiency. We need to get kids to proficient in the English language as quickly as we possibly can. The research on that says that it's about 5 to 8 years from the time a student enters a learning situation or learning environment, usually about 5 to 8 years to become proficient in the English language. If you get students 8th grade or higher and they come in as brand new newcomers, that number jumps to 8 to 12 years. So our goal is how do we beat that number? And so in our district, what we try to do is we try to be very intentional as far as what we're doing with our English learners. And our data shows us that if we have kids for 3 consecutive years, we usually get those kids to proficient in 4 to 5 years. And so if you work in an elementary and you have that kiddo who comes in as a kindergartner or as a first grader, where they're taking in language all the time but not necessarily ready to produce language, sometimes we see some frustration there. Sometimes we see folks wondering, are we moving those kids? And then you get to grade 5 or grade 6 and those kids are exiting in gigantic numbers. And so it's something that we try to make sure we share with our staff as much as we can, that there's building blocks in that whole process. And so the challenge we have is not everybody starts as kindergartners and then, hey, let's get them out by 5th or 6th grade. They come in at different points and times along the way. And so what we've decided that we're going to focus on these last 2 years, we have been very intentional about aligning all of our second language acquisition strategies, all the things that we're doing instructionally, we've aligned with the science of reading. And we have found great success for us, just that, especially that intentional awareness, the phonemic awareness, phonics, those 5 pillars of the science of reading have really been very helpful for us as we've helped move our students from that pre-functional level, and we need to move them towards proficient. By the time we get kids from pre-functional to beginner, you can see it really starting to take off. And when they get to the intermediate level, they're ready to go. A lot of our data says that by the time kids get to a 3 on a 1 to 5 level, a lot of those kids are able to score at the proficient level on a lot of the content area OSTs that they take. And so it's fun to watch them move through those different stages. And again, once we get to that level 3, level 4, those kiddos are ready to go. In our content classes, in addition to that focus on the science of reading, the simple view of reading, the real structured literacy approach, we've really tried to be intentional in focusing on vocabulary, because we find that if we can get those kids locked in with vocabulary in those content classes, math, science, social studies, we've really started picking up at the high school level. We've had a lot of our business teachers have said we need a little bit more support there. A lot of our unified arts teachers from intermediate through middle school into high school have really moved into that sheltered instruction format, where we're really focusing on the intentional use of language and really intentionally focusing on vocabulary. Again, we've seen those kids really take off. And so what's happened is, even at a time when we have the highest number of ELs we've ever had and the highest percentage of students who would be identified as a newcomer, we talk about growth in here and how important growth is for our kiddos. In the last 2 years, if you look at the growth numbers across the district, the growth numbers for our ELs in the area of literacy, they're growing at about 1.5 points higher than the all-student category in the district. And if you go to math, they're growing at like 4.2 points higher than all the other areas. And so I was in a meeting a couple of weeks ago where someone said, well, we just want to keep working with our kids. We know they're slow growing, and I had to stop you to correct people, but they're not slow growing. They grow better than anyone. Sometimes it's just getting them started. It's that piece that you have to work on. But, as far as growth is concerned, our growth numbers compared to all students in the district has always been strong. It's been even stronger these last couple of years. I really think the intentional focus on what we're doing, the PD that we do with the science of reading to help our kids grow as far as the whole phonemic awareness piece has really been very helpful for us. If you look at our kiddos, one of the things that we're graded on as a department in helping the district is the whole gap closing component. And so there's 2 areas we're measuring. Are we closing gaps as far as the all students piece? We already know with the growth data, we're definitely closing gaps. The other area though that we really have to make sure that we hit is what's the percentage of kiddos who are getting to proficient? And understanding that we're anywhere from a 4 to 8 year period of getting kids from where they are to proficient. We have lots of kids at different places along the way. But if you look at our data from the last 5 years, An average of 81% of our kids have scored at the progressing or the proficient level over the last 5 years. It has been constant growth over these last 5 years, and it's why we have 2,500 kids who've exited the program. And again, I'm completely confident that of the 4,008 we have right now, they are on their way to becoming proficient as well. Those numbers are important because if you look at Central Ohio, there are 12 districts in Central Ohio. We are one of 11 districts that have either met or exceeded the gap closing component over the last few years. If you look at the Urban 21, which we're part of around the state of Ohio, we're fourth of the 21, the Urban 21 districts. And so we have a wonderful staff. They work hard. They love on those kids every day. They love on all of our kids every day. They take care of them to make sure that they're growing the way that they need to grow. And again, I feel like the very intentional focus that we have following the guidelines established by the state around the science of reading has been something that's been very helpful for us. We're also looking for chances to get better all the time. So in one of the ways that we try to get better, we push out surveys. So we pushed out surveys to our staff and the community to say, how can we help more? What do we need to work on a little bit better? And the resounding answer that came back was language assistance. So we have a good core number of bilingual assistants in our district who provide daily language assistance services to our staff and to families on a daily basis. But when you have this many kiddos, you find times that you need additional support. And so for years, we contracted with an organization called Marty. Marty was great for us. It was a telephonic resource. If you didn't have a VA who was available and you needed to contact a family, every building had their own number they could dial. They would contact with someone. They would then call the parent. And what we found over time was, even if it was helpful, it's a bit cumbersome. So what our families have told us in these last 2 years is we need something that is not quite so cumbersome, and we need something that's a little more reliable because we found we weren't getting the connections that we needed with Marty. And so working with the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce, working with our friends in Columbus City Schools and their enrollment center, they recommended we take a look at something called ProVio One. And so working with our technology team in the district and working with our communications department, we've been able to stand up this ProVio One service. ProVio, it's more commonly known as ProVio, it's more of a video resource. And so if you go into any of our buildings in the district, including food services, transportation, our preschools, if you go anywhere in the district, you will find in the front on a cart a device so that if a family comes in and says, hey, I need to talk to someone and English is not their primary language, we can open that up, we can determine a language, we can within 6 to 12 seconds have someone on the screen ready to communicate with the parent to help them communicate with the folks in the front office. You can use ProVio on any device in the district, laptops, desktops, phones, and so our staff has really embraced ProVio in these last couple of weeks that we've really been pushing that out, and it's been something I think that's been very helpful for us. And in order to continue trying to figure out what's going on, Brian mentioned before, we have the EL Services Review Committee right now. I was on the EL Services Review Committee, ran it like 6 years ago, I helped head it up. And 6 years ago when we went through this, we had 10 people across the district who said, I would like to be a part of having conversation about the services we're providing. This year, we have 62 people. And so we have so many people who want to be a part of this conversation. We've had to stage this in 2 different groups so that we can get input from folks because we feel like we're doing good work, but we want to know what can we do more. And so in addition to that, we work with every community organization that you can work with right now as far as providing services for EL families. So the Community Refugee and Immigration Services, more commonly known as CRIS, we work with them quite a bit. There's the Somali Community Association, the Hispanic Coalition, the Abubakar Acidic Islamic Center has been a wonderful partner for us over the years. And so we feel like we're doing a lot of things to help move our kids forward. We feel like we're hitting things that are important for us to hit. And we also feel like we can't stop asking questions. We have to keep asking folks, what else can we do? And try to help provide the services we need to provide for our students and families.
Hello. I'm going to talk about special ed here for a second. One of the first things I want to share with everyone is that we received our special ed annual rating, basically like our report card for special ed. And for the second year in a row, we had met requirements. That's the highest you can get. And what was nice, and I was so happy about it, because we were projected not to make that. So they gave us an example using our data that, hey, you're projected not to make these requirements. So we did a lot of forward work, to try to get that, to make sure we were compliant and we met requirements. So we're happy about that. Something else that I've been working on with personnel, I presented at a national conference in San Antonio, and part of that was that I got to see and work with different agencies and companies. And I found a company called 321 Insight, and that company is about parapro training, and it's short, it's quick, it's little sections of time, so we're able to train the parapros everything from a general intake, kind of this is what you need to know basics, to let me give you some more training in PBIS, let me give you more training with behavior supports. So that's really exciting. We've also, in our department, been exploring different behavioral supports. We've got a pilot going on with some social skills pilot with our K-8 ED kids and CrossCat, and then a few of our buildings. We, at the intermediate school, we're doing the Circle of Courage, which we will be expanding. It currently is only in one building, but next year we will train all of our ED units in those. And then at Westland High School, we are using class equity as well there. So those are big steps for our teachers and coordinators to get on and understand and figure out the process for them. So it's taken a lot of time. One of the other things that we've done, you guys may have seen, Grove City Parks and Rec has put out their adaptive skills program. There was an email today about it. And we sat with them, we met with them, we talked about what our students needed, what our parents needed, what they wanted. And we continue to meet with them to kind of keep up to date about questions they have and things that they can offer. The last thing that we've really been working on as well is professional development all around. So not only for the parapros, but our special ed teachers. We are doing special education meetups, monthly meetups, and we meet here once a month. And teachers can come. We have our SST for compliance here, as well as the coordinators. And they can meet, sit, talk. We do training, we like to give some updates. So that's been really exciting that, we're starting to get people to attend it, obviously. It's after school. And we've also been doing the same thing for our behavior focus units. So starting in October, we started doing them every other month. So we've done 2 so far about just different issues that we see in our behavioral units. And before Christmas, we did one on how the behavior is going to change during the holidays. This is what to expect, those type of things. So that's been great. At our high schools, we have been doing a multisensory pilot with the Logic of English. So at least one person from every high school is on this pilot, and they're testing a different way to implement multisensory for the kids. So those are all really exciting new things that we've been working on. The thing that's going to take our most of our time is we have a preschool audit. So in the entire time I've been in the district, we've never been audited by ODE or ODU. Well, now it's preschool. So it is a level 4 audit. And they will be in district talking with staff, teachers, paras, administration. They're going to be looking at documents. They're going to be digging into all the pieces and parts. Unfortunately, they've only done this one other time last year. So we're kind of the new end of testing, so we'll see how it goes. But that will take up a lot of time in the spring and into next school year. So it won't be over by the end of school. So that's it for me.
Okay, thank you. So thank you for the opportunity to come and share tonight about Career Tech. I could talk about Career Tech all night, but I promise I won't. There's lots of exciting things that are happening with Career Tech, so I'm just going to share some of those. One of the things that I just want to start out with is all of our Career Tech pathways have to go through what's called a quality program review. where the state basically looks at everything in our program, from the courses we teach to work-based learning to business advisory council to the results that we receive at the our end of course exams, which are called web exams. I'm happy to report that all of our pathways really met or exceeded expectations except for one. And that was really based upon just some testing anomalies we had. So it was pretty exciting, and our staff worked really hard to make sure that we have all of those pieces in place for our pathways. The other exciting thing is our work-based learning hours continue to climb. So last year we actually had 39,448 hours of work-based learning. We continue to increase in that number by adding additional industry partnerships, and of course we're adding students, which means more students going out on work-based learning. One of the barriers that we've seen is transportation when it comes to students having the transportation to get to that work-based learning opportunity. So we've tackled that in a couple of ways. One is we applied for a Drive to Succeed grant. So we've targeted our students that are participating in work-based learning, and what that grant pays for is their driver's ed training. So it'll pay for that online training, and then that in-car portion of that, that's actually $500 per student. So that's a significant amount of money for our families. So currently we have 45 CTE students that are enrolled and 20 students that have already completed and earned their license. So that's super exciting, and we're hoping to continue to grow that number. We also allocated some of our federal Perkins dollars to help provide transportation for students that don't have that, because we want to make sure that we're opening all those opportunities up for all students. So I'm excited to see that number continue to increase. One other thing is, our beautiful facility here, we're sitting in the new portion, but our Career Academy is over 20 years old, so we continue to make sure that we're taking good care of our facility and making sure that we're adding all of the equipment that we need to be up to date with industry standards. So as you walk around, you'll notice that we installed new carpet in several areas. We're also updating all the signage above our programs to make sure that they reflect the new programs that we're offering, which I'm excited about. We've also purchased a lot of really neat equipment that if you ever want to come and see, please do so. One is a SimMan. It's a actual mannequin that blinks its eyes, and you can program it to actually have medical emergencies so the students can respond to those and see if they do that appropriately. So that's a really neat piece of equipment that we were able to purchase this year. We also have brand new computers for cybersecurity, because as you can imagine, the technology just continues to change there. And then the other thing is a CNC plasma cutter that's in our welding lab, which is pretty cool. If you want to see that in action, they're always happy to have you stop by and take a look at that. If you go around tonight, our adult hub is actually happening. Right now, we just started our new auto tech classes. We have a new class of electricians that are starting out, and we're just finishing up our broadband program, which is fiber optics. So we're excited to see that continue to grow. We're going to add a direct service professional class, which will give us that pipeline for paraprofessionals, so that we can continue to put those in our classroom. And then we're adding an HVAC program in the fall. So we're excited about that. One of the things that we continue to do is to think about how we can strengthen our CTE offerings and opportunities, not only here at the Career Academy, but also at the high school. So our teachers at the high school that are involved in Career Tech have done a phenomenal job of looking at the courses that we're offering at the high school level to make sure that they align with our pathways. And that we're starting to expose students from middle school, where Cheryl's classes are, up through the 9th and 10th grade, and then into the Career Academy or pathways at the high schools. So we've been doing a lot of work in that area. You'll see a lot of new electives that are coming out next year that they can take at the high schools. And we're also adding things to our pathways, like, for example, in our interactive media design, we're actually adding a drone certification. Because now with interactive media, a lot of times when you see those hype videos, you see the drones that are kind of flying through different spaces. So that will be an addition. And in our medical data management, we're adding a medical assisting component because that's really where the jobs are. So our focus is always to continue to look at what we're doing, look what the in-demanded jobs are in the region, and then just continue to make sure we have the equipment, the materials, and the curriculum to prepare our students. So we're excited. We have an open house coming out to kind of highlight all of the new additions. So we'd love to see all of you there if you would like to do that. That's on February 7th. So thank you for letting me talk.
Right, we allowed ourselves just about 5 minutes, so if you have questions of something you heard or something you'd like to highlight, if you need to think about that longer, we can certainly collect feedback over the next couple of days as well. We hit you with a lot, but that's really just a highlight of some of the things that we have going on. So with that, I'll open it up.
I just want to say thank you, first off. Like, thank you so much. This was so great. Thank you for being here on this Monday evening to do all this. I'm always so impressed with what's going on with you guys. So thank you so much. I have so many questions, but I'm gonna make them like more concise and everything. But I just want to say thank you a lot of times.
Also, thank you. 4 pages of notes. A lot to think about, digest. But one thing that, I don't know if there could be a quick answer to this, but the kindergarten readiness. For the person who may not know much about what are some of those targets or standards that we need to see for kindergartners coming in? And is this something where we could potentially launch a campaign for people who have, 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds to encourage them to do things that we might already be doing that. So I hope that I know that we're doing that in some ways, but maybe expanding on that campaign.
You bring up campaigns, Dr. Lusher, when you talked at the last executive session, we talked about can we maybe gather things, materials that can we get out to those families. Working with that Success by Third Grade group, that's what we're focusing on, and trying to hit the daycares, the churches, the preschools, and try to just get them curricular materials, books, what KRA is looking at is letter recognition, number sense, the basic. So when the kids, you remember, we have to give the KRA before the first 20 days of school. So those children have had no schooling, some they may have preschool or daycare. If we can end the preschools and daycares with resources, that would help us.
If I may, I'll speak loud. So one of our goals is to make more room for career and technical programming here in this building. As you know, our student enrollment center is currently housed there. So in addition to the outreach piece, to look at our enrollment processes to enhance not only signing kids up for the Imagination Library, but also partnering and getting those resources in their hands. Because really, when you look at letter identification, a lot of it's just exposure. And it's something easy that we can start to partner with our families so they don't feel intimidated about that work. The other thing too with numeracy, when we look at that piece, that can be easily integrated as well. So we're looking at our enrollment center as an opportunity for that too.
This is my only other thought about it. This is just conversational. Is maybe kind of getting some of those highlights out to parents. Because I have an education background, so I mean, when I had my children, what they needed to know, but not everybody does. And clearly not everybody does, or we wouldn't have 31% readiness coming in. So maybe just getting out that information. Because I would just think maybe just, somebody that doesn't have a background in education might not even exactly know what my kid needs to know before kindergarten. But I think all of those ideas, getting that information into places where people with young children congregate and with that information is a good idea.
Just something quick. Thank you everybody for being here. The information was very valuable and great to hear from everyone, all the things that are going on and the district. It's exciting to hear. I do have lots of questions that I probably will be sending out before the visioning session. Christine, wondering if you might touch on this at the visioning session about the number of students that apply to come to the academy and don't get in, and what we're doing with those students. So I don't know that you need to address it tonight, but maybe think about it and something that we could talk about at the visioning session.
Absolutely, that's a great question and something we're always thinking about. So when I talked about that area of focus at the end of my remarks about how we continue to think about how we can build and grow career tech programs, that's part of the conversation. Is we do want to make sure that we have the space and the opportunities for as many students that want to take career tech as possible. So that can look like a lot of different things. Expanding here due to space is a challenge, but we can also look at, can we put career tech in our high schools? And what does that look like? So we are having those conversations, and I'd be happy to expand on that at the session if that's of interest.
Anyone else? Thank you guys so much.